Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Skift India Travel Podcast. My name is Peden, and today again I have my colleague, Skift's India reporter Bulbul Dhawan, joining us. And Bulbul and I will be talking about the big stories coming from Skift and from India in the past week. Welcome, Bulbul.
Hi, Peden.
Bulbul, before we begin talking about what happened in travel, I know this is not a topic that we would discuss normally, but yes, I have to tell you that India won the T20 final, and
Yes,
of course,
for the second time.
yes, for the second time, but like it took another 17 years,
So,
right? I think the last
yes,
time we won was
was the inaugural T20
the
International World
first
Cup.
ever, exactly.
Yes,
So, I mean, we lifted the T20 final after 17 years, and this is a World Cup win after almost, 13 years or so?
yes, because 2011 was when we won the ODI World Cup. Yes,
Yes, in Bombay,
yeah,
Wankhede. I still remember that
yes,
very clearly because I was working at Times of India. And I don't
yeah.
think any of us went home that day. We were all just, I don't know what we were doing, but we were just
I
too
was in
thrilled.
school, and I remember I was in school, and that was my first ever status update, and I was like, "Yes, we did it."
Yeah, I remember our office was in ITO in Times of India. So all of
Hmm.
us went to, I don't know for what reason, all of us went to India Gate because that we just thought that was like we had to celebrate it there. And the entire world had turned up at India Gate. It was something else, but I think as
We've been I mean, I open Instagram and I see everyone in my friend list just like riding the high of the World Cup, that we've like the trophy that we've just lifted. And I think cricket is something that is a big celebration. I mean, I think in every society, including in mine, we had these big screen put up so that people could come together and watch while they were eating and drinking and having a good time. And I was like, well, that's a
yes,
festival
of
in its
course.
own.
I mean, cricket is a religion in India, I think, and that is
Yes.
one religion that brings us all together. More
Yeah.
than anything else. I think I was, when that over the 15th over, I think it was when Akshar Patel was being hammered by Klassen. So I think he got about 24 runs. I left the room because I was like, oh, no,
What?
I can't watch this. And then and then I just was checking the score on my phone, and when I was absolutely sure that okay, they're going to win, then I went back to the living room to watch
So you mean
it
the
on the
last over?
television.
You went
Yeah,
to
so
the
I went. I think I was pretty sure by the before, like it was the second last over, that
yeah.
we would make it. But yeah, I mean, and I think they gave us that thrill, right? If it
Yeah,
was a
it
match
was.
would have been like pretty one sided, then we would not have been so
Oh,
excited
yeah.
about the win. But it
Oh,
was
it was
like,
a nail
at one
biting match. Yes.
yeah, I mean, like they were from, yeah, I mean, like what? They needed like 27 runs from 28 balls, I think, at one point in time. So that is
Yes.
when you decide that, okay, bye, good night. It's not worth watching it.
Because
But
yeah,
yes,
one hit across the boundary, and then it's like, okay, it's decided in their favor. We're losing.
before we turn this into an ESPN podcast, I think we should get back to travel.
No, I mean,
But
we
yes,
can keep it relevant by the fact that yes, cricket is a religion, and it also reaches travel, considering we now have two. I mean, we have one cricket themed hotel, and
yeah,
another
yeah,
one, like another
yeah.
Radisson hotel that's coming up near a stadium. So it's not completely off topic.
Yeah, and we've been talking about sports tourism. Of course, we're just being very professional and talking about sports tourism and how big it is. Yeah.
Yes,
So yeah, Bulbul,
very
go ahead.
professional. But yeah, but now coming back to what we do, I
Mhm.
think one of the biggest news this week for me, I mean, this past week for me was your story on the India China flight connectivity. In December 2019, India and China had 539 direct passenger flights, and now there are none. And I was like, whoa, like from 539 to none. So, and it happened because of COVID, and then of course the tensions that occurred in 2020. So I would love to know from you what you found while working on this story, Peter.
If you're talking about what I found out from the story was, of course, it was funny that we knew that there were no direct flights, but it I did not understand the gravity of the situation till actually started doing the story. Of course, the border clashes in June 2020 led to the suspension of all flights between the two countries, and this was also the time that India had banned all these popular Chinese apps, including
Yeah.
TikTok, right? And
Yes. It was a mass ban.
exactly. So cargo flights continue to operate between the two countries, and but then there are also thousands of troops mobilized on both sides, right? So
Mhm.
I spoke to many people during while doing this story, and everyone kind of wished that flights are resumed soon enough. But what I understood was that business travelers are perhaps the most, the worst affected, because currently, because travelers between India and China must rely on connecting flights, and those
Mhm.
are usually through third countries like Thailand or Singapore. And the detour, besides increasing the travel time, also increases the cost, because I was just doing some kind of I was just searching for flights, and in 2019, a round trip economy class ticket between New Delhi and Beijing was typically between 350 to $550 American
Okay.
dollars, and it took about 6 hours, right? Right now, the shortest flight is a 10.5 hour flight. And
Oh.
for that, the fare is around $1,300, a little less than $1,300. And the
Oh.
cheapest available flight is about $650. And that takes about 12 hours, which is double the time.
Yeah.
Also, funny thing is that Kunming is a small province in China, but it's very popular as a business destination. There's a
Hmm.
lot of business travel that used to happen between Kunming and Kolkata. So in 2016, when I visited Kunming, we went there. I went for the China Travel Mart, and we went there from Kolkata, which is in eastern India,
Hmm.
and it took us barely, I don't remember clearly, but it was definitely less than 2.5 hours, because I remember thinking that this is shorter than a Calcutta Delhi flight, right?
Yeah.
And now if I was checking, and so Kunming to Kolkata is the shortest flight is, I think, AirAsia via Thailand, and that is about 8.5 hours.
Oh my.
And then there is Thai Airways again, which is a little less than
Hmm.
10 hours. Also, I found out a lot of new things, in the sense that I spoke to No Lee. She's a sustainable tourism consultant from Beijing, and
Hmm.
she lives in London with her husband, and her husband is Indian. He's from India. So
Hmm.
No she had been to India in 2019,
Hmm.
and now she got married recently, and then in March 2024 she wanted to go to India to meet her in-laws. I think before that, she was not married to this guy. So when she tried to go to India, of course, India had suspended e-visa facility for Chinese nationals.
Yeah.
And then she told me that she went to VFS, but the VFS people did not accept her application. And that's when I came to know. And then I sought an explanation from VFS. After she told me the whole story, I sought an explanation from VFS about, what was the thing. And that's when I came to know that Chinese nationals applying for an Indian visa
Yeah.
have to submit their applications from their home country. And that is according to the directives of the High Commission of India, which is what VFS told me. right? So this was again something that I did not know. I did not know before that, if you are a Chinese national, if you have a Chinese passport but live somewhere else, whether it is the
Mm-hmm.
US or the UK or anywhere else in Europe, you need to go to your home country to apply for your visa. So I mean, there was a lot of new information that came out when I was doing the story.
Mm-hmm. I was not aware of this either, because I recently was working on some story and I found out that, I was aware that a few, like India has a very small list of countries that require a proper regular visa approving visa process, like Pakistan, China. It's a small list, but there is one. But I did not know that they needed to go to their home country to be able to apply. So
Correct. I mean, like that's news to me as well.
yeah. While we're talking about India's connectivity, India-China situation is one thing, but on a flip side, we have the India-Middle East connectivity. So we know that the Middle East is a very lucrative region for short haul trips for Indian travelers at the moment, and so we have airlines from India and the Middle East that seem to be in a race to attract the Indian travelers. So, what is your view on this situation?
Of course, we've been doing so many stories talking about how important India is as a tourism
Yes.
source market for the world,
Yeah.
not just the Middle East, but for the world. And we've spoken at length about the tourism potential, which is being boosted by this rising economic prosperity, a fast growing economy, growing disposable income. And then let's not forget that we are now the most populous country, right? And then the demography as well. We have a relatively young population
Yeah.
who is, who wants to see the world.
Yeah.
And if you look at the tourism target of Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia has set this ambitious aim of attracting 150 million tourists by 2030. UAE has said that it wants 40 million tourists visits by 2030. Oman and Qatar have a relatively modest target. Oman has about 11 million tourists by 2040, and Qatar is about
Mm-hmm.
7 million international visitors by 2030.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, you had done a story, I think I think in April, I'm not too sure, but you did a story about the fact that the Saudi Tourism Authority has said that the kingdom aims to make India its top source market, right? It
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
said that it wants about 7.5 million Indian visitors over the next 7 years, which is almost about 2030. So, of their 150 million tourists, 5% is definitely what they want from India, right?
Yeah.
So, and also something that's very interesting is that the travel time between India and these countries is less than 4 hours, and there is a
Yeah.
this large Indian diaspora in the Middle East. So that
Yeah.
definitely it makes it a destination of choice for scores of Indian travelers. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, like what we mentioned about India, China, just the opposite is that direct connectivity is essential to help connect these countries. And, we have some
Mm-hmm.
fantastic connections between India and Middle Eastern countries. And most important, the easier visa processing routes. I think these
Yes.
countries have understood that they've understood the pain points of travel from India, and they have tried to address it very beautifully, so that like India is of course the top source market for like Emirates, Dubai, right? So they
Yeah.
know what they want, and look at the tourism promotions that they have, the road shows that they have. It's not just Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have roadshows in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, Chandigarh, Jaipur. They have roadshows everywhere. So they know where the travelers are coming from, and they want to tap that market.
Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
Yeah, and I think they're looking at different ways. I mean, I heard yesterday that they're reaching out. They're trying to reach the Indian audience in various ways because yesterday, I think it was during PM Modi's address that he does the monthly address, and he said that Kuwait now has a weekly radio program in Hindi, which I
Mhm.
think is something that is meant to attract the Indian diaspora there, as well as the Indians here who are very proud of their lineage and their culture,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
a way
like
to
they,
connect with them.
if you want to attract tourists from a country, then you have to show that you're India friendly, right?
Yes, yes. So the countries are all trying different ways to reach out to the Indian tourists,
Hmm.
and the airlines are just supporting that, I think.
Absolutely.
But and while we're on the topic of the importance of Indian travelers, let's also talk about the fact that India was the fourth largest international source market for the US between January and May this year, and it's second largest if Canada and Mexico are not taken into account. This is from the official US brand USA data that we've got. And so during this January to May period, Indian travelers increased by nearly 40% from as compared to 2023. And in May alone, there was a 32% increase in Indian tourists. So, what do you think this means or reflects when it comes to Indian travelers?
Of course, Bulbul. For all the reasons that I mentioned earlier, India is an important source market for all countries that are looking to grow the tourism industry, right? I
Hmm.
mean, like if you are looking for tourists, then and to think of it that less than 10% of the population has access to a passport, right?
Yeah.
China, which was one of US's top source market, is still very far off from the 2019 levels. And that's
Hmm.
again, the same old thing, the same old vicious circle. It's the lack of flight connections. There is, flight connections between US and China have not recovered to 2019 levels. So as a
Yeah.
result, US is not getting the amount of Chinese tourists that it got,
Yeah.
pre-COVID. And then, but if you compare that to India, US, I think, received about 1.7 million Indian visitors in 2023, which is 20% more than 2019 levels. And
Hmm.
the National Travel and Tourism Office expects that this number will go up to about 2 million by 27.
Hmm.
Having said that, I would still say that travel from India to the US, visas is still a concern.
Yes.
I was checking visa wait time. I think because somebody wanted to apply for a visa yesterday, and it's still 300 plus days from many of the Indian cities, like places like some. And it also depends on when you are checking it. But yesterday when I was checking it, it was 400 plus days from Bombay, 300 plus days from Kolkata, and about 200 plus days from Delhi.
Yeah.
So, and if you remember, the U.S. ambassador to India, Rick Garcetti, when he came on stage at the Skift India
Yeah.
Summit, was talking to Rafat. Garcetti mentioned that President Biden had asked him to work, quote unquote, work hard to bring down the visa wait time. And
Yes.
at that time, he had said that while he's not absolutely sure, but this might be the only time a US president has told an ambassador to work on visa issues. So that's how
Visa issues.
important
Yeah.
addressing these visa processing delays are, and it'll be very crucial for the U.S. government, because this is that one roadblock that
Yeah.
facilitates smoother travel between the two countries.
Yeah, because even now, when visas are such like when visas are this big of an issue, we're still the fourth largest international market. So just imagine what it would be like if this processing time was lesser than what
Exactly.
it is currently.
That's food for thought for the officials as well.
And one last topic that I want to touch upon before we end this episode is Paytm's partnership with travel aggregators Skyscanner, Google Flights, and Wego.
Mhm.
Paytm has partnered with these um, travel aggregators as a part of, in order to enhance its travel segment offerings. And this has come after it recorded a very successful quarter for flight bookings. And we know that Paytm had started as a financial services company, but it is now diversifying its revenue streams, and travel is one of these streams. So, what do you make of it, Peter?
Yes, of course. This is big news coming from Paytm, and shows
Hmm.
just shows how serious it is about entering into the travel business.
Yeah.
If you remember, Paytm entered the travel ventured into travel in 2014, but at
Hmm.
that time it was mainly providing those deals for online booking of trains and buses.
Yeah.
Then around January 2019, Paytm, kind of, if I may use the word, fortified its presence in the travel domain by
Hmm.
acquiring this last minute hotel booking app that was based in Noida,
Hmm.
called Night.
Hmm.
So, interesting thing is that, when this news came out, I was reading Paytm's BSE filing related to
Hmm.
this news about, its partnership with Skyscanner, Google Flights, and Vigo. And, what was surprising is that they frequently refer to themselves as an OTA, as an online travel. Now,
Yes.
in the filing, Paytm says that in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2024, which is the period ending March 31st, 2024, Paytm maintained its upward trajectory in market share among OTAs, with flight
Hmm.
bookings showing a notable, I'm just reading from their filing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And somewhere else also they talk about the fact that as the second largest OTA in train bookings,
Hmm.
so Paytm, I mean, like for you and me who've who know Paytm, who've used Paytm,
Hmm.
Paytm was more like you mentioned, it's like a financial services company, right? It was
Yes.
basically if you have to make an Uber payment, then you use Paytm. So
Yes.
I never imagined Paytm as an OTA. So,
Yeah.
but the fact that they decided to call themselves an OTA in a BSE filing shows how serious they are about, about this travel domain. If you remember, last year in November, also PTM had announced a partnership with Amadeus.
Yeah.
They said that they would be integrating this Amadeus, which is a travel technology company, their platform in search, booking, and payments, and
Hmm.
this would be done for the next 3 years. And they've also partnered with, they've onboarded new carriers like Cambodia Anchor Air, Salam Air, Fly Dubai. So if you
Hmm.
go out to look for flights in PTM, you'll get a whole lot of options.
Yeah.
And they also introduced something called a free cancellation service, which
Hmm.
is something that has seen huge growth in trains and buses. And then they started that for flights as well.
Hmm.
Because, the customers want greater flexibility, right? And peace of
Yeah.
mind. The fact that they know that, if I buy a flight, and then if I have to cancel it, then it can be canceled without, going through this whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
So I think in that same filing also, they didn't quote anyone, but they said a Paytm spokesperson has said that they are committed to expanding their travel business offering.
Yeah.
And the partnerships that they've had with global travel aggregators and airlines, and then of course they are also integrating artificial intelligence, AI. This kind of shows that they are very, very, very looking at travel in a very competitive way.
Hmm.
And it should be good news for the customers, because then they have more choice, and of
Hmm.
course better deals as
Yeah.
well.
Yes. Um. Let's see how it goes for Paytm though, because it's still most people have used Paytm as a. I mean, it we know it got a boost when demonetization happened in 2016, and it's sort of retained that image. And But I think this could do wonderful things for Paytm, especially because it was sort of an introducer of a lot of services to the smaller markets in India. So it might just be able to succeed with this
Yes,
different
I think, I
revenue
think, I
stream.
think, like one of the biggest challenges that most of the OTAs have is
Hmm.
kind of getting more people from the interiors of India to use their applications, and that is something that PTM has. If you go to any small
Hmm.
town, small village, every kirana shop will have that PTM QR
Pay-
code. So
yes,
I mean, yes, people are
I think
using it. People do know about it. So I think that that impression that they have of PTM, and there is a trust factor as well, right? Because
yes.
you have they have all their money, everything is the payments are happen through that. People receive payments through that. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's all the questions that I have for you, Peden, today.
thank you so much, Bulbul. It was fun
Thank
talking
you,
to you.
Peden, as
Most
always.
we were discussing cricket, and I'm sure that if we get another 1 hour, we would be still discussing cricket. I would say that I'm thrilled that we've won the T20 World Cup, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I'm sorry if you feel that we've digressed from travel today, but we just can't help it. This was something really special. Thank you very much, Bulbul, for
Yes.
joining me, and
Thank you, Peden.
please keep listening to the Skift India Travel Podcast. Thank you very much. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave a positive review. Your support helps us spread the word about the Skift India Travel Podcast and ensures we can keep bringing you free content every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever a new video drops. Thank you for your support.